A reflection for the second Sunday of Lent. Praise be Jesus Christ, now and forever. From the Epistle. For this is the will of God, your sanctification. 1 Thessalonians 4, 1-7. Last week, the first Sunday of Lent, we focused on the three temptations of Christ by the devil. It may be that you came away with the feeling that, well, I'm not tempted like that. Beware. Beware if you have no temptations. That was the title of one of the homilies of the Curé d'Ars. Why is it, my dear brethren, he said, that when someone gives no thought at all to saving his soul, when he is living in sin, he is not tempted in the slightest? But that as soon as he wants to change his life, in other words, as soon as the desire to give his life to God comes upon him, all hell falls upon him. It's true, isn't it? We know from experience. St. Augustine, who certainly experienced sin, had this to say: look at it, look at the way, he tells us, in which the devil behaves towards the sinner. He acts like a jailer who has a great many prisoners locked up in his prison, but who, because he has the key in his pocket, is quite happy to leave them, secure in the knowledge that they cannot get out. This is his way of dealing with the sinner who does not consider the possibility of leaving his sin behind. He does not go to the trouble of tempting him. He looks upon this as time wasted, because not only is the sinner not thinking about leaving him, but the devil does not desire to multiply his chains. It would be pointless, therefore, to tempt him. St. Augustine explains that the devil doesn't wish to multiply the chains, because what he is doing is leaving his sinner in this world, able to pollute others and tempt them by his own way of life. You know, St. Augustine took 5 years to win the battle with sin. However, he said, God gave me the grace to be victorious over my enemy. Another example from the early saints. Accepting God's call to go to Jerusalem, St. Jerome was tempted ferociously. He said this: how many times in this vast solitude, which the heat of the sun makes insupportable, how many times the pleasures of Rome have come to assail me. He took to the desert to get away from those pleasures, but they followed him in his imagination. The Curé d'Ars, with these two examples, concludes, alas, how we are to be pitied if we are not fiercely harried by the devil. The greatest of evils is not to be tempted, because there are then grounds for believing that the devil looks upon us as his property, and that he is only awaiting our deaths to drag us into hell. It's a sobering thought, isn't it? 1 Thessalonians 4 again. For this is the will of God, your sanctification, that you abstain from immorality, that every one of you learn how to possess his vessel in holiness and honor, not in the passion of lust like the Gentiles who do not know God. To describe my person as a vessel, to possess one's vessel, suggests that there is self-control. Indeed, that I am myself, that I have escaped the prison in which my sins entrap me. I am a person, fully alive. That's what St. Augustine achieved by the grace of God. And if we think about it, if St. Jerome had not overcome his carnal lusts, he would not have reached Jerusalem, studied Hebrew further, and written a translation of the Bible directly from the Hebrew into Latin that we call the Vulgate. That was completed in 405 AD. That's 1600 years, a source of salvation for countless souls. We live in a period of unbridled lust with some parallels to Rome. If we think of the pleasures of Rome purely in terms of ice cream and a pizza on holiday, well, it was rather worse than that. Jerome faced hostility too. He faced it indeed from lax secular clergy, as well as from high society. And we should expect to do so too. As with temptation, if we don't generate a negative reaction with the world, on at least some occasions, then something is wrong. That's why we should be grateful, in a way, for the negative reaction in the media and the toxic lobby groups to the courageous action of the Archbishop of Southwark, England, John Wilson, in correcting what he found in John Fisher School in Purley, a secondary school under the control of the bishops, named after someone who died for upholding the integrity of the faith. It's become common for schools in the dioceses across England and Wales, including Catholic ones, to have weeks or even months dedicated to promoting homosexual behaviour. Of course, they won't phrase it like that. It's justified as being anti-bullying and being inclusive. Well, the bullying seems to be on the other foot, and there's no tolerance or inclusion of that most unacceptable of minorities, faithful Catholics. Anyone who disagrees with them is outside the pale. Let me remind you that pale means a fence or a wooden picket which surrounds a town or indeed a society. That's us outside the pale. I have read extracts from the book at the centre of this row. They reveal a shocking level of depravity targeted at 12 to 14-year-olds. I have no doubt that this writing encourages immoral behaviour. When the school refused to withdraw the invitation to the author, the Archbishop acted to ensure that this happened. Now, the outrage subsequent to this will unnerve others perhaps who privately hold to Catholic teaching, which states that homosexual acts are intrinsically disordered. The Catechism of the Catholic Church 2357. A disordered action is simply something that keeps us from fulfilling our true nature, which is being a holy child of God. Any sin I commit keeps me from fulfilling my true nature. We want our children to be protected from material which may tempt them to any sin. Indeed, we all need to be alerted to danger of that sort. To expect that clear and perennial teaching of the Church about sin to be applied to those in our care, whether family or school or elsewhere, is true compassion. We want the best for them. The problem today is that a vociferous minority denies sins of this nature and expects Catholics to overturn their perennial teaching to accommodate it. Notice that I have focused on actions, not natures. The old expression, love the sinner, hate the sin, is relevant here. One of the pernicious confusions propagated by this particular lobby is to amalgamate the action and the person. It's natural, they say. This is wrong. It's a denial of choice. Father William Most writes, "We do not say it is nature that sins, but a person sins. It's a choice. God gives us the dignity of making real choices, but we must bear the consequences of wrong choices. To deny that there is a choice is to damage our person. To equate me with my actions is to deny that God can give me the grace to overcome sin. If I fall into sin and then repent, I want God to forgive me for my actions and make me once again a holy child of His. Well, it's our duty, out of love for the people who revile us, not to let them become complacent in their sin. It's our duty not to be complicit with their distortion of Christian morality. Otherwise, in the words of St. Augustine again, they become the sinner who does not consider the possibility of leaving his sin behind. Souls are at stake. Those who fail to protect our children will answer for it when they stand before the just judge. We are in this struggle together. You and I don't want to be in the pocket of the devil. We are not his property. We have been bought at a price. We have been baptized into the family of God. For this is the will of God, your sanctification. And that is what Lent is all about. Praise be Jesus Christ, now and forever.